Let's take a look at number 2. Number 2, similar to the first one, in that there's actually going to be two different answers, two sets of numbers that would work for us. So that's why, again, on my paper you see that I have the problem twice, because I'm going to show you both solutions. Your paper, you only have one of those, so you only need to pick one of the solutions, but I just want you to see that there's actually two possible answers here. So what we're looking for is that we're looking for two numbers that either combine to 8 or have a difference of 8. And once we kind of get an idea of that, then we can start messing around with the signs and figure out what needs to be positive and what needs to be negative. So I don't know, let's just say if I'm looking for something that combines to 8. 2 and 7 would be 9, 7 and 4 is 11, 4 and 4 and 4 is 8. But what we see here is that, and don't write this down, I just want you to see that this would not work. Because if we put that in, -4 minus -4, that's your two-stick rule. Those two minuses, or that negative and that minus rather, would become a plus. So you'd have -4 plus 4, which would not be equal to 8. So that won't work. And I think it's good for you to see too is that this is kind of a trial and error. We're taking some numbers, maybe our brain throws out a pair of numbers, maybe it's right, maybe it's not. So we just want to test it. So we're kind of making a hypothesis here. We're making kind of a guess at to what we think it is, and then we're testing it out. So any other numbers that combine to 8? Oh, how about 7 and 1? Now 7 plus 1 is 8. But since the answer is negative, that means I'm probably need that 7 to be negative. So what that's going to end up being is that 7 would go in the second spot, and then the -1 would go in the first spot. And so what this says is that we're going to start on the number line. So we're going to start at -1. And then what this says is that it says take 7 steps to the left. And left because we see that minus sign there. So from -1, we're going to take 7 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now we're at -8. So -1 minus 7 is -8. So that is a solution for our problem. And again, the number line is just so visually, again, some people are a little more visual learners, so this is for you to visualize what's happening when we do this problem, starting at -1, moving 7 to the left. Now, how would you do that if you weren't drawing that on a number line? So remember, what we do is that same signs add and keep. So they have the same signs. 1 plus 7 is 8. And keep the same sign, right? Which would be a -8. And then so for some of you too, is that you realize, well, I thought that's a +7. Well, subtraction is really the same as adding by a negative, right? So we could really think of that as -1 plus a -7. So that's 1 negative and 7 more negatives to make 8 negatives. Now that's not the only answer. There was actually another possibility for this one as well. So we said the other thing we may want to try to do is find maybe two numbers that either add up to 8 or if there's a difference of 8. 7 and 1 worked for us. I guess right away it kind of stands out to me is 2 and 6. And if I said this, so let's say I said 6 minus a -2. And don't write that down because it's not correct. Again, that's your two-stick rule. That becomes 6 plus 2, which would be a +8. But we're looking for a -8. So maybe I just need to switch that around. So let me try that again. So -2 minus 6. All right, so this says to start at -2. So I'm going to start at -2. Use the bottom number line here. And then I'm going to go 6 to the left. So if I go 6 to the left from there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I come up with a -8. So that would also be a solution, -2 and then 6. And again, doing the number line here is not punishment. It's not just to make you do extra work. It's really a way to verify and to check your answer. So I know I did mine on my own number lines. All that you would have done is that on the number line that's on your paper, you would have picked one of these. You didn't have to do both. Is just mark that off, -1, and then mark off the spaces. And then we've got negative 8. And then you would have done the same thing if you had chosen negative 2 minus 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Alright, so at this point, go ahead and pause the video. You want to try 2.2 and 2.3 in the middle. Use this as a reference if you get stuck. And once you think you have the answer, go ahead and press play again, and we'll give you a hint as to what the answer is. Alright, so go ahead and press pause now. Alright, let's check in with you and see how you did. For 2.2, two possibilities here. 4 and negative 1, right? So negative 1 minus 4. Or we could have said a negative 2 minus 3. And for 2.3, two possibilities again. One possibility being 1 minus 5. The other possibility being negative 2 minus 2. It's really important that if you don't understand how those numbers are the answer, that you stop the video and get some extra help, because what we don't want to happen is that you keep going forward without understanding what you got right in front of you. So pause and stop it if you need some additional help. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and move on to the next problem.